This is just so we can do a bit of wood turning. So back in the summer, went to a manor house, and in there it got a lovely old kitchen with lots of the tools set up, and we went through with the lady that was curating it, and it was really cool to see them all. It's a bit of a pet subject of mine, and in there they had a wooden pastry crimper, cutter, whatever you want to call it, and I looked at it and I thought I'd really like to make one of those, especially this kind of crinkle cut piece here, which I couldn't quite figure out in my head how it was going to be made. So I thought, the best way to figure it out is probably just to make one. Looked online, couldn't find anyone really making them these days. Didn't want to use machines. I'm sure you could make a jig for this with a router, maybe a really tiny one. But I thought it'd be quite cool to do it by hand. So I made one. I thought I'd do it for an article for Woodturning magazine as well on how I did it. Now, I made this yesterday, finished making it, and the wheel was a real pain to make. The whole thing I made out of sycamore. Actually making the wheel, I was thinking about it afterwards and chatting to someone online, and they said that box probably would have been better to make the wheel out of it, and it's perfectly good idea. Or maybe some hawthorn or some apple or something like that. And I thought, actually, would they have, I mean, this was seasoned wood, would they have used seasoned wood for this? I reckon they probably would have used it green. So I'm going to make another one. I'm going to make the handle out of sycamore again, nice and simple. And I'm going to go and cut myself a branch off. This is all end grain. It's surprisingly strong. But I'm going to go cut myself a piece of apple or a piece of hawthorn from the field. And I'm going to turn this up and see how quickly I can then carve it. I just use the V-tool, and I just use a little jig, which I'll show you when I get around to doing it. And the idea is that I think that would be an easy way to do it, and maybe I'll get it a little bit finer. And I think because it's all end grain, it'll dry really quickly. So if I oil it, it'll probably dry the moisture out anyway, and do it like that. So that's what I'm thinking. So let's make ourselves a little pastry cutter. Right, so there's a few leaves left on the apple trees. They're definitely going dormant. This one frost will fetch this up in the middle of November now. This tree cropped a little too heavily this year. As you can see, it's broken, and I'm going to have to prune it back quite hard to kind of try and get it to regrow out of some of this damage. So, might as well use this for some of the wood that I want. Want it to be, I'm only after a 32mm disc, so 1.25 inch disc. So I reckon that piece there will provide plenty. And what I'll do when I come back to print it properly, I'll cut it off a bit closer, make a neater job of it. This is just so we can do a bit of wood turning. Right, might not look much, but it's, you know, waste not, want not. So we'll just take off some of these branches so they don't hit me in the face. Right, and before we turn the disc, actually, we're going to go and make a handle. Okay, so fresh from branch wood, feel the wetness in it. So I'm going to cut myself off one of these discs. And the advantage of it 32mm, drew myself a little hole in here, and it fits in while I'm doing the carving of the V-bits. So what I'm going to do now is work out, I've got 45mm, 45 degree V-tool, and I am going to pace out all the way around it, the V's, so it's even. And I know with 32mm and this size bit it actually works. And then what I'm going to do is give myself a couple of, so it's about a mil in between, so let's clamp this piece of wood up. This will be my jig. Right, I'm hoping this is a bit easier. I'm hoping this is a bit easier than when I did it with dry sycamore. Let's have a look. God, so much easier. There you go, one side done. Didn't even take 5 minutes. Nice and even. Oh yeah, that's the way to do it, isn't it? Okay, now I have made them fit. So what I'm going to do is drill a small hole through here to accept a panel pin. I'm going to cut off. This is like a little axle. I'm going to drill a slightly bigger hole in there so it will freewheel. The other one's over there. And then I need to find a way of curing this really without it cracking. And what I might do is, I've got some tung oil there. I might just leave it in that. Widen the hole out just by hand with a slightly bigger drill bit. the little rivet. There we go. Right, so I'm going to oil this, but I'm just going to submerge it to coat the wheel. Okay, so having made them both ways now, so this is with the dry sycamore, which was really hard to carve, and this was with the bit of apple that I chopped off the tree. This was so much easier to make and to carve. Doing the wheel took me about 10 minutes. In fact, I'd say it might have shrunk a tiny little bit, and it's made it even finer on the wheel, looks even better than the season one. And maybe that's just because I've got a bit better at doing it. I did carve a separate wheel. So this one I dipped in the oil and oiled it, and I've oiled it a few times this week. And this one I didn't, I just left to dry naturally. And there are actually, with the one I've left to dry, a few hairline cracks, if you can see that. But not so much, nothing on this one. I can't see anything wrong with this one. Seems to work really well. So I'm fairly sure that's probably what they did to make these little wheels. And they're pretty solid, you know, it's quite strong. I did turn some just flat discs, and I mean it isn't as weak as you think it is, I don't think. I know it's end grain. So I think the key is you drill roughly where the pith is, and then it'll dry out evenly. But yeah, fun little experiment. Good fun on the lathe, something nice to make, a good useful kitchen item, just to see how they did something in the past. So I really enjoyed making that. If you've enjoyed this rambling video of me making a pastry cutter, then please let me know in the comments below, and also let me know what else I should make.